He was dressed in a white shirt and dark trousers, and there was a strong attraction. Love was radiating between us. Today's NDE is by Nannci. I found myself traveling down the tunnel. I was floating. I couldn't see myself, my human body, but I felt I had some type of other body. It made a loud whooshing, whirring noise, similar to my sleep paralysis sound, but slightly different. I wasn't afraid like when I was having sleep paralysis, although I did think, where am I going? And at some point I could begin to see a pinpoint of light coming closer to me, which seemed to be getting brighter and moving in a circular motion. I then saw different colors in the light, like a rainbow. Beautiful, surreal, and unlike anything on Earth. Before I could think another thought, I was through to the end of the tunnel, and before a grid of those colored lights, which appeared to be some kind of boundary. I was mesmerized by the colors. As a Christian, I would describe them as glorified. In layman's terms, they were a super high definition, unlike the colors we see on Earth with our human eyes. They were alive and vibrated a perfect peace and calmness, which washed over me until all I could feel was the same as the colors. I was standing in front of the rainbow grid, mesmerized, overcome with peace and beauty and an amazing awe and love for them. It seemed like a very long time, but I wasn't bored or thinking, gee, this is a long time here. A long time was like a second. I became so enthralled by this rainbow wall, I had this sense of feeling oneness with the colors. I wanted to no longer just admire the beauty before me. I wanted to merge with it and truly become one with it. I then moved toward the wall and merged into it. Again, I didn't have any interest to look at whether I had a human body. I didn't care for anything. It was like I knew where I was instinctively, but without having the need to think about it. I knew what I wanted to do next, which was go beyond the rainbow wall. There was something greater beyond that I had to experience. I felt every vein, organ, and cell in my body fill with peace, compassion, love, and acceptance as I merged. The process felt like forever, but a split second, and I was through to the other side quickly, a place of no endings or beginnings as far as the eye could see. It was the brightest white light emanating a heightened super love beyond what I just experienced within the wall. The light was amazingly bright, but not painful to look at. The light was not just a light, it was the power of love. It washed over me so strongly. It washed away all the pain, tears, and sadness I ever experienced so quickly that I was left without a memory of ever experiencing them at that moment and instantly. I was overcome with love, the purity and innocence, and a sense of perfection or holiness simultaneously. To describe the actual merging of this is just not humanly possible. It happened so quickly, but yet I could feel the bad wash away and the goodness enter, and I knew this was how I was meant to be. This was me in the right state of being. Everything negative before was a corruption. I looked across this vastness of light and realized profoundly that I was in a spiritual realm. I saw movement in the distance, and instantly before me, seemed like 5 meters away, was the most handsome man I have ever laid eyes on. And yet, he was so familiar to me. He was dressed in a white shirt and dark trousers, and there was a strong attraction. Love was radiating between us. My first thought was, it was my ex-fiancé, yet he looked different, far more handsome than in human reality, as if he was glorified. I felt myself suddenly, instantly before him. I was able to move at will, and just a thought desire. We were communicating to each other without words, telepathically. It was like he knew everything about me, where I'd come from, every thought and experience and emotion I ever felt. It was a welcome home. I basked in this love, but then, the next moment, he turned his back and was facing me, and turned back, but it was no longer the same man. It was a man in a brown sackcloth, older, and of average looks, according to human standards, with liquid eyes filled with compassion and love. This unexpected departure unsettled me for a split second, but the waves of love emitting from the other man were stronger, and I was at peace. He grabbed my hand, spoke with me telepathically, and asked me to look ahead of me and before me. I saw an amazing modern city filled with skyscrapers with reflecting glass windows, truly beautiful. We walked along a path, and I was on his right side, on the side of what looked like a botanical garden park. I was mesmerized by the amazing colors of the flowers, colors I'd never even seen before. Spectacular roses, beauty like no other. I then looked over at the man with me. I was smiling, overcome with joy and happiness. I knew he could feel everything I felt. He knew my thoughts, but it was normal and natural here. I knew there that love never condemns or judges. I don't know how I knew these things, but it seemed I knew where I was, whom I was with. But yet my human life at the time never had met this man or recognized that place. I remember thinking, this place is beautiful. The flowers are spectacular. I'm so blessed right now. And he said telepathically, you're beautiful and loved. Always be full of hope, Nannci. I love you. After this, in the blink of an eye, we were back in the never-ending white light. Only this time there was a group of people standing in a circle waiting for us to arrive. I was motioned to sit, which I did, and everyone else sat down. I felt as though these people were the same as me, new arrivals. We all shared a little about how we felt when we left the earth. One man next to me looked extremely similar to a friend I once knew, as though he was his twin. He told me he was hit by a train. Then it came to my turn. I expressed my feelings, hopes that I had on Earth, and at this point, I knew I was to return. I asked something about my future. It was a long-held wish, and I was given a number representing the year when it was to occur. After this, the man in the sackcloth took my hand. I stood up, and together we left the group. This bit was bizarre. We didn't walk away either. They just disappeared. Or we did, because we were now alone, and he was asking me to sit down again in the vast white light, as he had something to show me. I sat, and so did he, and incredibly these white sheets of paper appeared in his hand with black print, as though typed, that he wanted me to read. I would read one full page, and he would put that one down and put another one before me. I sat there for a very long time reading what seemed like 100 or more pages. I don't recall anything I read or what it was about. I only knew that it related to me and was very important. After this, he said goodbye and left me, and then I was back in the tunnel flying fast and woke gasping for air. I became aware that my heart was palpitating. I was totally aware of my reality of being back in my body, and I was traumatized. I wanted to go back. In my mind, I pleaded to God to take me back there. I didn't want to be here. I wrestled with my dilemma, saddened that I wasn't to experience ever on this earth a love that I just felt in its totality and most pure state. I continued to plead, and I felt myself go back to the beginnings of sleep paralysis. Only this time, I had the out-of-body experience and felt myself floating above the bed. And then I was back in the tunnel and flying, feeling happy to be on the journey again. I saw the circular rainbow of colored lights in the distance, and within seconds, I was in front of the grid of multicolored lights. The only difference was I wasn't able to cross. I was thinking, "Let me come in," and nothing happened. It seemed like ages waiting there. I then realized that I wasn't going to cross, and then I was back in the tunnel, traveling fast. Only this time, when I re-entered my body, it was with a jolt, a thump. I heard like a buzzing noise.